Midterm elections now right around the corner. Primary season officially in the rearview mirror. All attention now on November the 8th, 2022.
For more on this, let's welcome in former Pennsylvania Senator and Senior Advisor to the Convention of States and Newsmax contributor, Rick Santorum. Rick, thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning. How is everybody doing there?
We're
Rick,
good.
Doing well. Look
Friday.
forward to seeing you in studio again as we get closer to these midterms. Let's start in your home state, Pennsylvania, the Keystone State, as it's called. So John Fetterman, this is a deeply troubled candidate, and he is going to be running for this open Senate seat against Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz, it looks like, is closing the gap. The polls have tightened a lot. Looks like Pennsylvania voters are tuning in. Dr. Oz made some changes to his campaign, shuffled a lot of the campaign, staff. What do you make of that? Is he making up ground in the right way? Can he pull this off?
I don't think there's any question he's picking up ground. Look, the media is finally doing some of their job, which is actually reporting on John Fetterman. Not just everyone's focusing on his health condition, but that's really not the issue as much as his positions. I mean, this is a radical guy. This guy wants to legalize drugs. This guy wants to let people out of prison. I mean, even more extreme than some of these DAs are talking about. He oversees the prison board as lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, and he's made outlandish statements about, I want to release a third of all prisoners in Pennsylvania. This is a very, very dangerous guy. He wants to be a member of the squad. He wants to start a squad in the Senate, and that's just not where Pennsylvania is. And Mehmet Oz, he's got obviously some negatives heading out of the primary. He's a mainstream Republican. He's actually probably a little not as conservative as what most Republicans are being nominated in Pennsylvania. But he should have a appeal to the Philadelphia suburbs. That's what he's working on. And I think in the end, he'll probably pull this out, and he'll be a fine senator.
Yeah, you mentioned he says some outrageous comments. Let's listen to what he had to say about the Oz campaign. Take a listen.
It was very bracing to face the fact that I could have died. And, thinking about that, reflecting on that, the father of 3 young children and a wife, and thinking of all those things. I promise you that is 10 times bigger and 10 times harder than the kind of cheap shots that Dr. Oz has chosen to choose in his campaign.
All right, so attacking Dr. Oz, and he did commit to this debate on October 25th, just shortly before the election day. What do you make of this, and what do you expect with this debate?
He committed to the last debate, there were several debates that were offered by a variety of different networks. He picked the last one 2 weeks before the election, and I sincerely doubt he's actually even going to do that one. But remember, voting starts in a couple of weeks in Pennsylvania with absentee ballots and we have mail-in ballots. Now, we don't have mail ballots. You have to request an absentee ballot in Pennsylvania. But lots and lots of voters are going to be voting well before that debate, if it ever happens. And look, what you've seen from John Fetterman is he'll do whatever it takes not to do interviews, not to talk in front of groups, not to have debates. And so he'll find some reason, I suspect, at the end to say, well, Dr. Oz is being mean, and or he won't agree to closed captioning, or won't agree to all these things I need in order to pull off this debate. And he'll probably end up canceling anyway. It's just a delay tactic is what he's doing.
So Dr. Oz, it seems like, and again, this is a guy, Fetterman had a heart attack a couple days before the May primary. This is somebody that is literally, and we've talked about this, check that, a stroke. This is somebody that's literally having a difficult time stringing a sentence together right now. He's turning down all requests for local news interviews. Oz has started with his political ads going on the attack and just sort of pointing this out. Look, he's a doctor, okay? Who better to do this than somebody like Dr. Oz? Is that the right play?
I don't think it's necessarily the right play, because I think the focus should be on how extreme this guy is. Clearly, he is not fully with it. And look, if you just read basic research about strokes, that 90% of the recovery that you're going to get from a stroke is in the first 90 days. Well, we're way past the first 90 days.
Right,
and so the
point.
idea that John Fetterman is going to have this, complete recovery when it's clear he is not very well off. His doctor said he should be able to be fine if he keeps his, if he does what I'm told. Well, he's not. I mean, John Fetterman is not someone who he admits he ignored the doctor's advice for years and ended up with this heart problem,
Yeah.
which caused the stroke. This is, again,
Yes.
but when we're talking about that, folks, we're not talking about how extreme he is.
Yeah,
And that's
good
my
point.
big concern.
Great-
We need to
great
talk about
points.
how he's dangerous to the people of Pennsylvania.
Yes, those are the ads that I think will work. All right, Senator Rick Santorum, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.
Good to see you, Senator. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank
Thanks.
you.